is the problem?
Hi everyone, my name is Noah Davenport Roth, and I'm a local musician.
Hello, my name is Allie Arrington.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Vincent.
Hello, my name is Liza Kennedy.
My name is Elizabeth Talon, but my stage name is Cat Joan.
Hi, my name is Melissa.
Allison Noel.
Hi, my name is Jordan Paige Suddeth. I'm 17 years old.
My name is Colby.
Hello everyone, this is Marina.
Hi, my name is Olivia Deaton. I'm 18 years old.
Hi, I'm Frankie Francois.
I'm 15 years old, and 3 years ago I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression.
I have anxiety,
Borderline personality disorder,
Depression.
Social anxiety.
Dissociative Identity Disorder.
PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder.
Depression, social anxiety, and general anxiety disorder.
Depression and anxiety.
I am at a pretty low place with an eating disorder.
I have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and agoraphobia.
ADHD, I had anxiety when I was younger. My psychiatrist diagnosed me with major depressive disorder.
I have OCD.
We're going to be talking about depression and suicide.
Growing up, my mom was always trying to lose weight, and she did basically everything. She did fasting, she did only drink Diet Coke, was always starting a new diet on Monday. Her mood was directly related to how her diet was going. So if she was doing good, if she had dropped a couple of pounds, things were great, things were wonderful. So I always associated losing weight with something that was positive. Losing weight has always only ever been good. Gaining weight is bad. Losing weight, good. That was just drilled into my head so hard. Whenever I needed something to be good, I knew I could lose weight and feel good. I woke up this morning really hungry because I didn't want to eat last night because I don't like going to bed full. Now I'm still not eating because it's not time yet. There are specific memories of all of my ED behaviors in the kitchen and everywhere around me, going through binges and purges and that damn scale and everything. I don't trust myself. There's the only way to do it. I used to just trust the scale, so now I've just been walking around with the one big question mark about how I feel about my body. When I was feeling good, I was like, oh, it's probably this number, which was a very low number. When I was feeling bad, I was like, oh, it's probably this number. I'm huge, I'm giant. Okay, so I am 5'11", which I'm pretty tall, and I weigh about 108 pounds right now, which is something that would have once upon a time really excited me, but now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, that is too low. So see here, my spine's definitely I need to start recovering, and I want to use this platform as a way to share what it's like as recovery is happening.
3 years ago, I was feeling super depressed, and I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to talk about it, so I just hid it. I couldn't keep it in. So I sat down with my mom in the car, and I said, I'm not as strong as you think I'm all the time. And she was very confused, and I pretty much told her that I hadn't been feeling my best, and I was just feeling super depressed. I told them I need professional help, and they helped me find a therapist, and I went to therapy pretty much every week from there. As that year went by, my anxiety started to amplify, an insane amount, and I was having 6 to 10 panic attacks every day. It sucked, because as a student in school, having to leave classrooms to breathe, or not having friends to know what's happening, or that anxiety pretty much caused me to self-harm. It wasn't bad at the beginning. It was just, it's always bad. So yeah, it was bad at the beginning. And from there, it was not easy to stop. I was put on medication, and that really helped me just kind of get out of those slumps quicker. From there, everything just started to turn around. It got easier to talk to people about my panic attacks. It got easier to talk to people about my struggle with depression. And I'm here to tell you, you are not. It's never easy to talk to somebody, but talk to somebody. People care about you. People want to care about you.
First of all, agoraphobia is something that a lot of people don't exactly understand what it is, and it's in a variety of different forms, but my form is if someone speaks the words like you can't leave or you can't, basically you can't leave, something along those lines, I begin to freak out. Not good. My mental illness really does affect my daily life, especially. It affects my eating habits. There are times when I'm afraid to eat because I'm afraid it's gonna make me sick, or I'm gonna get sick, or there are times when after I eat something, my anxiety wants me to believe that I'm going to be sick for some reason, or if I'm tired for some random reason, it wants me to believe that means I'm getting sick, and that means in reality it's not. It's just the anxiety making me think that. My family is very supportive of it, however, they don't fully understand it, and I think that's how it is with anyone who doesn't actually have the mental illness, but they're trying to support someone who does have it. They can't really fully understand what it's like and how it is, but my parents are very supportive, but there are certain things I get frustrated with that I wish they could understand, and I wish they could understand how my brain works and why, that makes me anxious, why, things going out of order can make me, freak out. If I don't know of something beforehand, like 30 minutes before it happens, I'm over the roof. Not good. What I really wish people would know or knew about anxiety is that we cannot help it. It can seem like the most ridiculous thing in the world that we're worried about, and we're even telling ourselves that it's ridiculous, but it doesn't work. It's not going to work. It's just not how it works. And trust me, we wish we could calm down. We wish we could just stop and pause and tell our brain to just shush, but it doesn't work like that. So please be patient with us, and overall just be supportive. We all have stuff going on in our lives, and we all just really need to be supportive of each other. Thank you so much.
My dad and my mom were divorced, and my dad lived in New Hampshire, and I lived in Arizona. I moved to Arizona from Vermont when I was about 11, and he would visit me twice a year for 2 weeks at a time. So once for my birthday in July, and then once for Christmas. And so my sophomore year, during Christmas break, my dad was out here, and so I was with him. He was an alcoholic, and that was hard on my whole family and on him, obviously, on his life and just the things that it did to his life. My grandpa was essentially my role model. He was my father figure in place of my dad, because my grandpa I lived with my grandpa for a while, actually, and we would always spend time together and go to the gym every day, and he was just my best friend and my role model. Mom told me in the car, and I was crying a ton, but so I got to the hospital. He gave me his ring and his cross necklace, and it was just so hard for me and my whole family to watch this strong, funny, humorous, full of life man just go from amazing and healthy to just unhealthy and sick and bone. And he passed away that night. I was actually holding his hand as he took his last breath, which was really hard. My dad came out soon after, because this was in June that he passed away, and then my dad comes out for my birthday. And so my dad was in July, he came out, spent time with him for 2 weeks, which was nice. I was still grieving. I lost my best friend and my role model, and so I went to school. I went back to school for my junior year, having a good year. I was still grieving, still sad, but I was fine. I was grieving in appropriate ways. On September 15th of my junior year, so 3 months after my grandpa passed away, 3 or 4 months, I got a call from my grandma, who my dad lived with. She told me that my dad had passed away. My mom said, you should probably go to school, because you'll be around your friends and you'll be distracted. And so I went to school. Oh my God, I was just I just stared into the sky, I couldn't think about anything. And I just started, I had to leave every class, go to the bathroom and just cry. I obviously was having a hard time and depressed and anxious, and I didn't really know what to do in my life. Like, I'm a junior in high school and I'm losing the two most important people in my life. And I was like, I don't really know what to do, and so I just decided to go hang out with my friends as much as possible so I could get distracted. Like, I obviously had a couple weeks where I just stayed home. I didn't want to go out at all. It was just hard for me to stay home alone because that's when I would get the worst emotional feelings, and obviously that's gonna happen when you are grieving. And I didn't realize this with all these problems and all my sadness and like thoughts. I ended up hanging out with these people that just partied a lot, and so I started partying, drinking, and I got into vaping. The feeling can be addictive, and I was definitely addicted to the feeling of being high and not having to deal with thinking about these sad emotions and sad thoughts that had come in my life. And I was drinking a ton of caffeine because I was always out. I was sneaking out every night. I was disobeying my mom. I was like a troublemaker. I was like the troublemaker. This just got to the point where I was unable to deal with emotions. That is not good for someone that is needing to grieve and deal with mental health appropriately. Dealing with mental health, if you block it all out, it's just gonna build up and eventually it's gonna explode. And there's one night I was with my buddies, we were in the car, we were vaping, they were about to smoke. I basically was hitting my friend's vape and I started feeling super weird, and like I just started feeling super out of it, and I was like, I don't know where I am. Like, I started losing where I was. I was driving home and I was like super dizzy. I was like, what's going on with me? And I didn't know what was happening. And so I got home, I was like, Mom, I was like crying because I was like, Mom, something's wrong. Like, I don't feel normal, I'm dizzy. I just feel strange. And she said, just sleep it off and you'll feel better in the morning. I woke up, I did not feel better. I couldn't drive to school without getting super dizzy and like scared. Driving was just so hard for me after that because I thought that like I would just lose control while I was driving, and it was scary. And I stopped smoking, I stopped vaping, I stopped everything right after this moment, and right after I was like, I don't know what's going on with me and I don't want to feel this way. To the point where I couldn't eat anything without thinking that someone was in it and getting a panic attack. Or also, I couldn't even leave my house without, I couldn't even walk 3 feet out of my house without feeling a sense of doom and anxiety and scared. And like, it was so bad. Since I got to college, I've been working on myself, researching a lot about mental health. I started learning a ton. I was getting so much better, and I was able to drive again, and I felt better, and then it started getting worse again, but now it's getting better. It'll relapse, but after the relapse, you'll start feeling even better than before. So eventually, it'll start moving up, and I'm just keeping positive that I will feel better.
There are some things that have gotten better in my life lately because I'm eating more and, becoming more okay with that. I used to say like, okay, I won't eat for 24 hours, and I used to do it all the time. And that is so bad. And I got so hungry. And yeah, so now I don't do that. I used to not ever eat like starchy carbs like potatoes, and I eat potatoes now. Something else that I used to really struggle with was getting really bingy after I would eat, especially when I was alone sitting in the kitchen. I'd eat my meal, and then like before I was even done eating to ask myself if I was hungry or not still, I would be planning the next thing I could eat. Just like trying to get myself away from the kitchen was like impossible. I am sleeping so much better, but my sleep is so peaceful. And I think it's because I'm not like starving when I'm trying to sleep. Like obviously your body isn't gonna want to sleep if it's starving. I have like way more energy, just way more energy. I think it's a combination of the sleeping and the eating that like I have the energy to have a freaking personality. I used to just be like so like in my mind like anxiety about food and like starving and focusing on being really cold, and like now I can do other things like be funny and have energy and joke around and not be focused on food 24/7, and it's so nice. It almost makes me want to cry.
For some reason I was almost 17 and my family really couldn't believe it. They kept trying to say like it wasn't really a thing, that like I was just a moody teenager that all teenagers are angsty, that I just need to get over it, that I was just being lazy. And that's really what I want to talk about, is that that is not the case with me, and I know it's not the case with so many other people whose parents say this. My social anxiety is mostly just if I try to socialize with someone that I didn't expect to socialize with, I will have a panic attack. I can't really hold a job for more than 3 months because of how frequently I have to call out for a mental health day, just because I can't do anything without crying. A lot of the time, teenage depression is ignored and shoved under the rug because of this like stereotype we have of teenagers that are just moody and just angsty. But like, you really need to know the signs and get your kids the help they need, because the only reason that my parents did was, honest to God, because they found a suicide note in my dresser. So that is the only reason I started going to talk therapy. That's why I had no friends. No friends. I ate my lunch alone in the basement of the library. Talk therapy really got me to a point where by the end of my senior year, I had a small group of friends, like 3 or 4 friends. So it got me from no one to a few people, which is what I'm comfortable with. But you know, my depression was still really bad, so I have a dog now. I have a service dog. As an emotional support animal, this really help. He gets me motivated to go out and get out of bed because I need to feed him and I need to go to work to support him financially. I need to walk him, and by the time I walk him and feed him, I'm ready to go to work. I just need that initial push to get out of bed. So that's really what has helped me. That and therapy together. You can't have one or the other. It has to be both. Or I guess you could do talk therapy, but you can't just use the dog. Anyway, thank you for listening to me.
Hi, my name's Allison, and for those of you that know me, I am horrible at speaking. I'm going to read a poem called Glimpse into Social Anxiety Disorder that I wrote. The trembling and racing heart is just the first reason I choose to dart. The shaky voice, the shaky hands, trying to hide seems like the best plan. Don't be shy, they all say, but they don't understand, so I just obey. I smile and act as if I don't care that they're making fun of me while I blankly stare. Blushing every time I'm spoken to. If you know me, I've done this around you. Self-conscious and uncomfortable around anyone, hoping the conversation is almost done. Overwhelmed and easily irritated, concerned about conflict I've created. I can't focus on the task at hand. What was I doing? Oh damn. Let's put on a hat so we can't be seen. Let's hide from the eyes looking so mean. You get nervous too, yes I know, but after reading this, I bet you said wow. Most don't realize the struggle that lies with your mind being the ultimate spy. So many insecurities to name. High school bullies are partly to blame. Name-calling, weight-shaming, pure emotional abuse can leave a person with such an awful bruise. People don't think before they speak, and when the words keep piling on, it leaves you numb midweek. I care so damn much, but apparently it's never enough. I'm thankful for the ones who've showed they care. You know who you are, and you've never compared. Smile, give me a hug, and talk to me are few of the words that made me feel free. Free of these overpowering words hanging over me like flying birds. The fear, the loneliness I tend to feel goes away for that moment and helps me deal. So thank you to those who have been sincere. You've helped me help myself, and for that, I cheer. Thank you.
I think the biggest struggle for survivors is the aftermath. So in my high school years is when I was sexually assaulted, and then after that I was experiencing a lot of trauma. And I didn't really realize at the time until I went to my first psychologist, who told me something really interesting, that they did research on Holocaust survivors, combat soldiers, and sexual assault survivors, and they all exhibited the same symptoms post the incident. Feeling disconnected from yourself, not sleeping well, freezing in a lot of situations, being easily triggered, being really angry. So that really opened my eyes, and it really helped, like just knowing that, okay, this is not me. It's a result of something that happened to me, but it's not who I am, and it's not all consuming. My first intention wasn't to go to the police with this. It was actually to do restorative justice, which is a really amazing program that exists in Israel right now. I don't know if it exists anywhere else in the world, where you actually get to sit with the person who was your sexual offender, and you get to tell him everything you want. It's a long process. It's not just one meeting. Looking him in the eye, even though it was seriously the most difficult experience of my entire life, the scariest, so much anxiety, so much depression came back, and memories and everything. It left me very, very empowered, because I felt like I took all this burden and I just gave it right back to him. And I felt really strong when I walked out of there, and it was just amazing. Sexual assault or any kind of abuse have an effect on a lot of parts of your life, very diverse parts of your life, where sometimes to strangers it just doesn't make sense. Believe me, sometimes I just feel, and it still happens to this day randomly, so much anger that it's like mind-blowing, and I don't understand where it's coming from, and it's completely unproportional to the situation and things like that. Let's now go into like strategies of dealing these days. So of course, there was a lot of therapy, and meditation was amazing and is amazing. It is, oh my gosh, it has changed my life, because it has made me a lot more calm. I wasn't able to sleep a lot, and now I feel like I sleep a lot better. It has just also really helped me connect with myself. I really, really want to take responsibility for my life, for everything. So whether it's like I get really angry randomly, it has nothing to do with anything, it's irrational, it's part of PTSD, but I know that I'm the one getting angry, and I'm choosing to get angry, and if I want to, I will change it. It doesn't have to be that way. And yes, it's difficult to change my reactions, and it's difficult to take ownership of PTSD and of, dealing with the past, but it's up to us. I guess it changed my life in a lot of positive ways. For example, I have worked with sexual assault survivors and volunteered and did a lot of education on the topic, and just understanding power relationships a lot better. When you were on the negative side of them, you do begin to understand them a lot more. You begin to understand people who are feeling powerless a lot more. So I'm really thankful for that.
So, dissociative identity disorder is most commonly referred to as multiple personalities, as it is a split personality kind of thing. Most people with split personalities are entirely harmless, not violent at all. In my personal experience, right now, I have what's not split personalities, I have splintered personalities, so I'm actually aware while they're going on. So far, I know of 2 personalities. I call them alternate joy, which my actual name is Joy, my stage name is Ella, or AJ for short, and being. So AJ is one I really do not like. She is masochistic, which means she likes to hurt me. She is, I suppose, sadistic if we think of her as a separate personality. And she's really just very self-sabotaging, just in the way she influences my thinking and wants me to do stuff and makes me think about myself. She comes up in times of stress and at night when my medication has worn off. The other personality is being. She is a bit more reserved, shy, and I think she comes out in times of stress when I need to get something done. So I experience derealization, depersonalization, dissociation, and the personalities influencing me, not quite taking over, because I still know when it happens. Depersonalization is where you don't feel like yourself, and that commonly comes along with dissociative identity because you don't feel like yourself. I do experience, however, dissociative amnesia. So especially with AJ, when she comes around, if she makes decisions or makes me do stuff, I oftentimes will not remember it or won't remember what I was feeling or thinking at the time, which is kind of scary. I just graduated high school. I don't remember anything before my freshman year. And then freshman, sophomore, junior year, I remember bits and pieces, but if you asked me when something happened, I couldn't exactly place when it happened. It's like, I know I was 10 years old once because obviously I'm older than that, but I don't remember what it was like to be 10 years old. realizing I had dissociative identity disorder, I can piece together in my mind things that have happened, and I'm like, that was AJ, that was being. Dissociative identity disorder is not awful like society has demonized it to be. People actually, you know, they live their everyday lives. People who meet me wouldn't actually know that I have dissociative identity disorder. When I tell people, they're quite surprised. We do perceive disconnects of reality, and so be patient with us if you know someone with dissociative identity disorder, because it is quite hard.
My story is not quite like the others. My childhood was pretty smooth, didn't have much problems until 2014 when my dad passed away. That was the first time in my life where I isolated myself, just took myself away from everyone, and I ended up getting into self-harming. I developed depression, social anxiety, and general anxiety disorder. I was bullied a lot from 7th to 8th grade, so I changed schools. 9th grade was pretty smooth, but the summer from 9th to 10th didn't go so well. I started restricting and purging, using laxatives. I self-harmed even more. I was cutting, burning, anything you could do to yourself, I was doing it. I put myself in a lot of dangerous situations. I've had about 9 attempts of suicide. I got put in treatment September 25th of 2017 to the Renfrew Center, residential for about 4 months, and they also diagnosed me there with bipolar and DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder. I got back to school, second semester of 10th grade. I'm back in school now, I'm in 11th grade now. I still have my struggles. I'm getting help, but my anxiety has been out of the roof because I'm back in school. I'm still struggling, yeah, but you know, I'm gonna get through it one way or another. So that's my story. Thank you for listening.
Common stigma about OCD is that it has something to do with cleanliness and organization, which is true for some people, but for a lot of people that's not what it is. In fact, I'm a pretty messy, disorganized person, and I have severe OCD. OCD is when you have intrusive thoughts that enter your brain that you can't let go of. You physically and mentally can't function because these thoughts are just shooting into your head again and again and again. It's like someone constantly slapping you in the face, telling you have to do something, or you have to think about something, or count something, or touch something. You are literally barred. You're incapable of doing anything else because you're enveloped in these intrusive thoughts. This is so hard. Okay, so okay, I'm just gonna talk. So, towards the end of high school, my OCD was getting a lot better, but I had little tics again. And by the way, it's not like I had all of these different tics at one time. It's about 4 months I have one tic. The next 4 months, somehow it transitions into the next one. College was a complete game changer. 360, everything changed. The first semester of college was the hands-down worst period of time in my entire life. A lot of it was situational. I was in a new location, I didn't feel close to anyone, I was homesick, I was stressed. So when I'm weak, the OCD comes out a lot more and it's a lot stronger. I started making lists, which is something I had done before but never that extremely. I want you guys to understand that making lists, when I talk about that being a form of my OCD, is in writing down a list at the beginning of the day, or writing it down 5 times during the day, or just thinking about a list once during the day. I probably thought and went over that list more than 30 minutes out of every hour of me being awake every day. More than half of my day was going over this list. I was doing so poorly in my classes because I couldn't focus, because I just kept going over and over and over and over these lists. I felt like I was like a shadow, kind of just like pretending to go about to be Alice, and then there was actually me, my brain, just attacking itself all day long. I felt worthless. I couldn't get out of bed. I would just sit around and like couldn't move. I couldn't do regular things or perform regular tasks that I should have been able to be doing. I've never been so miserable in my entire life. I couldn't really talk to my friends about OCD because a lot of people don't fully understand it. No one can really give you advice. Your friends telling you to focus on something else isn't gonna fix anything. So I was in a really, really bad place, and my freshman year, I'd never had a panic attack before. My freshman year, I had my first panic attack. I didn't know what the fuck was happening. I just thought, wow, this is spiraling out of control. I need to go get help. First off, I started taking Prozac, which, by the way, for me, I don't think did anything. I started doing treatment called CBT. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. Explain everything to your therapist, and they come up with treatments, actual activities that you do in order to help yourself. It helped a little bit, but it didn't completely help. Thinking about it and talking about it, it was like making it worse. So I felt like there was no way to fix it, because trying to treat it was making it worse, because I was just thinking about it, and thinking about it is the whole issue, is obsessing over it. And I would sit there and just like not even be able to talk, because I would just have to keep performing the tasks. And even though it's like the littlest of movements, it controls your entire head, because it's all you're thinking about. It's not the movement that's the issue. It's the intrusive thoughts. It's your brain constantly thinking something, that there's no room to think about anything else. It isolates you. I feel like I'm split in half. A part of me is never fully there. I'm in my own head, obsessing over something. One day I just stopped seeing my therapist. I didn't say goodbye. I went to a doctor in Rhode Island where I live. He told me that a part of my OCD was TOCD. TOCD is Tourette's OCD, and I didn't know this, but I guess a form of Tourette's is really common for people who have OCD. He gave me medication that actually helped a lot, and it made me so much better. I personally really, really hate the idea of being on medication. It kind of like changes you as a person, your emotions, and it has a lot of side effects. So once I started to feel a lot better from that medication, I stopped taking it to see if it was better, and it did get worse, but it was more manageable. And I honestly, I don't want to rely on it, so as of right now, I'm not taking the medication. It's something that I might start taking again, but I do know it works. However, the problem is that although that treated the Tourette's OCD, there are so many portions of the OCD that wasn't being covered or helped by that medication. My biggest fear in life is that I'll never not have it. And that is terrifying, because it makes me miserable. It makes me so miserable. There are weeks, there are days when it gets better, but then it just comes right back. So I'd love to be optimistic and say I'm getting better, but it does come and go, so getting better doesn't mean it's gone. For those of you who have experience with this, I'm not trying to tell you, like, sucks to be you, it's never gonna get better. But I don't want to be completely unrealistic about it, because it is chronic in most cases. And I guess the idea is that you're not alone, that there are solutions. I want you to know that you can get help.
I was about a junior in high school when I started showing symptoms. I would suddenly have outbursts of anger. I would cry over the littlest things. I was very good at pretending I was okay. If people asked me what was wrong, I would say, oh, I'm fine, or I'm just tired. I remember one night I was driving around after a fight. I was driving around at night crying, and I stopped and parked in a parking lot and just sobbed. And I wondered what was happening to me. I didn't understand why I wanted to kill myself. If it hadn't been for my mom, who I love so much, and my dog, I would have killed myself. And I'm so glad I didn't, because looking back, I would have missed out on so much. I would have missed my niece growing up and becoming the lovely goofball that she is. I would have missed my sister's beautiful wedding. I would have not been there for my mom when she needed me the most. I still sometimes have thoughts, but not nearly as bad. I had a talk with my mom about 4 years after I started thinking I was depressed. And she said, I think you're right. I think you are depressed, and I think you should see a doctor. And that was the best decision I ever made. They got me some medication. I started slowly becoming better. And I thank my family for support, and I would not be here without them. So if you have any thoughts of what I had mentioned, please get help.
I was always anxious as a kid. I was very shy, reserved, didn't really want to talk to anybody. I didn't finally start coming out of my shell until about maybe high school or so, when I met this guy. And obviously in the beginning it's always cool. I really liked his accent. I really thought he was attractive. We were friends for a little while, and then we got together, and then he left the school that we were in. This was in college, and then he came back. It wasn't until then that he really started physically abusing me. There was arguments over the pettiest things. I still stayed strong with him, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have just left. But when you're in love, you kind of stay, or love. I ended up in the hospital, and that's when I realized something's got to be done. I had bruises everywhere. I didn't want to be around anybody. I was finally diagnosed, and I started seeing a therapist. Living with depression and anxiety day by day it's a journey. You need to have the right support. It's a mental and emotional thing, and it really affects you physically, which is the reason why when people say that they're depressed, they don't want to get out of bed in the morning. They don't want to do the things that make them happy, because it's such an overload. As of right now, it's 2018. It's been about maybe 4 years since I was diagnosed, and 5 years since I survived my domestic abusive relationship. I wish I had reported him to the police. I wish I had gotten arrested. I wish I had stopped it from the beginning, but he just had a hold on me, and it sucked that I was so scared not to see him. I've been taken advantage of before. Prior to that relationship, I was raped by somebody else, and I didn't report him either, and I wish that I did. Now I've come to a point in my life, I've been consistently going to therapy, even still. I've made new friends. I've had a completely different outlook on life. I have a cat now who's more like my emotional support animal than anything. I've dated, and I've now that I'm single, I've embraced trying to discover new things about myself and new talents that I can, figure out. Trying to get myself out there, meditating every day, stuff like that. You don't really want what had happened to you or your mental illness to really hold you back from trying to push forward. And it's not something, like I said, that's gonna just happen overnight. It's a step-by-step process. One thing that I can say that is comforting is the fact that I'm not alone. Every situation is different, but you're not by yourself. You're not suffering alone. There's always support groups and life groups, and even going to church. That's definitely helped me personally. This is a path that unfortunately a lot of us have to take. You need to try to find your motivation and try to push yourself forward. Start small, and then gradually over time start to pick up more stuff.
talk about is how anxiety is not just one thing. It's sometimes shaky hands, sometimes a pounding heart, sometimes the urge to cry. A lot of the time it's this need to just get somewhere comfortable. So my anxiety first flared up when I was 8. My parents divorced. My anxiety kind of latched on to my mom in the way that I couldn't be away from her, because I was convinced something was going to happen. She would disappear. School, I kind of kept to myself because you can't really explain what anxiety is at that age. I didn't really know what it was. I kind of found an outlet through theater in the way that when you can pretend to be someone else, you can pretend you don't have anxiety, which I guess is what drew me to the stage. And that started a lifelong passion. I'm thankful for that method of coping. I'm also very thankful to my dad, who realized something was wrong. He got me into therapy. Good therapist is like finding a needle in a haystack. There's millions of them out there, and a lot of them are not a good fit for you. They can be perfectly good therapists. They just don't fit with you. I didn't find one that actually started helping me till I was 17. The biggest impact anxiety has had in my life is trying to branch out and grow as a person. At my high school, the beginning of each year, we'd have what's called outdoor experience, where like the kids would spend a week away from home, going on adventures or what have you. And every year, all I could focus on was I'm in a place I don't know, where I'm not comfortable, and I'm not at home. So, first year, I got so anxious I got physically sick. Second year, couldn't go. Third year, went and dad had to pick me up. Fourth year, didn't go. Above all, that is embarrassing. It's humiliating. It feels incredibly stupid. I remember telling myself, you're 17, you're about to go to college, and this is what happens. I committed to a college in New Jersey. I'm from Maine. I got on medication after that, more intensive therapy, and we talked about, coping methods. I had my own room set up so I could escape and decompress. I was actually excited. I was talking to some people who would be in my class, and then the time comes, the day before we leave, and what set me off was saying goodbye to my best friend, staying in Maine. We've been good friends since middle school, and I remember hugging her. I could not stop crying because this was such a big change. I was leaving, and I just got so scared. Cried the whole car ride. We get about halfway, and my mom and stepdad were like, well, we're gonna get food. I couldn't get out of the car, and they realized we need to think about this. And of course, in the moment, you're not thinking, this is college. They put all this money into it, you committed to this, how's this gonna look? You're not thinking about that, you're just thinking, get me out of this. I took a gap semester. In hindsight, I regret that. It's just hard being so far away from home. Now that I'm done with it, I realize if I had to go back, I probably would do it differently, maybe go closer to home, maybe not go at all. Senior year, I met my partner, and he showed me really the best way to cope with this. The biggest thing is he's helped me accept myself, because he showed me this isn't something to be ashamed of. It's not a flaw. It's just a part of who I am.
Borderline personality disorder is caused by some sort of traumatic event in your childhood. Basically an instability of moods where you can't even differentiate the difference between happy and sad and even hungry or tired, because literally all the time you just feel like complete garbage when you're, suffering from it. I was suffering from the borderline symptoms, which is incredibly bad anxiety, social anxiety, crippling depression, self-harm, suicidal ideation and thoughts. For as long as I can remember, probably elementary or middle school, that went all the way through to this year, actually, is the year that I got into recovery, which I thank God for. Thoughts are very, very powerful. And you have to realize that when you have a mood disorder, like borderline personality disorder, or any mental illness for that matter, first of all, it's not your fault and not something that you did to deserve it. So stop beating yourself up, because I know if you're suffering from a mental illness, you're beating yourself up because society beats you up and tells you that you're lazy or that, oh, you're crazy, and that's not the case at all. The reason why people bully you and the reason why people attack you for it is because they don't want to see someone who's different succeed. People with mental illness are some of the most beautifully gifted and beautiful minds in the world.
Growing up, I was always a worrier and a nervous person. So I'd be really nervous in school, reading out loud in class, and public speaking for sure. And now it's affected me differently. My dad passed away 2 years ago. I don't want to lose someone again, so I get very anxious about my family's safety and people who I really care about. I always check in with them and make sure that they're okay, and I always say be careful. But that's one of my biggest anxieties. Because a lot of people think that you could control your anxiety, but sometimes you really can't, and you can't relax or calm down, or you're not being dramatic, and a lot of people always say that, and I think that's another thing. People don't realize that anxiety is a real thing. To share with people who don't really know much about anxiety or mental health, there's just such a big stigma behind therapy, and I think that should just be crushed, because it's really important to take care of yourself, and if it means talking to someone about your feelings or being open with your friends and family about it, I think it's great. And a lot of people are so embarrassed to do that, but I think it's such a great thing to do. You shouldn't be embarrassed by it in any way. I think it's just something that people think is embarrassing, but it's really not. You're bettering yourself, you're helping yourself. For people who are struggling with mental illness or anything, I think you should know that you should never give up on yourself, and you should just keep trying new things that could help you, new techniques. Just keep expressing how you feel and working through it. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. That's one thing I've learned recently, is it's not selfish to just take the time to better your own life and make your happiness a priority. That's self-care, and I think everyone should be doing it, no matter if you have anxiety or anything. If you have a physical problem, you would be doing the same thing. You would be going to rehab to help your arm feel better or something. Just because you can't see the anxiety doesn't mean it's not happening.
Before I lost my own friend to suicide, I knew that suicide was a problem, and I knew that it was an issue, but I never thought that it would be an issue to me. I started to actually realize and see how many people suicide affected. I decided to create my own suicide prevention organization in memory of my friend, with the goal of breaking the stigma and getting people to talk about it, while also raising money for art therapy programs, music therapy programs, mental health programs for middle school and high school, as well as raising money to get people who don't have the financial means into therapy. I think that more people need to be okay with talking about it and shouldn't feel embarrassed to talk about it. Society has made it so taboo. People don't, and that's why you don't know, or you may not know, if somebody that's close to you is suicidal, because I certainly didn't. I would do anything to have my friend back, and I think that if taught the warning signs, the trigger signs, anything that was a clue to see if somebody was suicidal, that I could have done something. But I don't know that, because I was never taught about suicide prevention. I was never taught about mental illness in my school or in my community, because people just decide to ignore it. But that's not okay. Just being aware that it's an issue can save people's lives. Making somebody feel like they're not alone. It has such a huge impact, more than people realize. Simply ask, are you okay? listen and to not pass judgment, then real change can happen.
Hi, my name is Patty Costello, and I'm going to talk to you today about suicide and depression. This is Devin Marie Costello. She was 15 when she took her life, December 9th, 2015. She was your typical wonderful 15-year-old. She loved everybody, took care of everybody, listened to everybody, never complained, never had a bad day, never letting on that she suffered from depression to anybody but me and her family. Honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. She was an Academy Award-winning actress. I never, ever in my entire life expected her to leave me. December 8th, Devin and I had an argument. And December 9th, I wanted to come home and talk to her about it. But when I came home, I couldn't find her. And after looking frantically and calling all her friends to find her, I realized that there were notes on my table. And she had left goodbye notes to everybody, all of her friends and all of her family. And that's when she told me that she was inside the playhouse in my backyard. And to please not come there. And that she was sorry. Of course, I went like a mother would and fully expected her to be sitting in the playhouse waiting for me to come home from work. But she wasn't. She had hung herself from the rafters of the playhouse, and she was already gone by the time I found her. I was left to call her dad and tell her grandma what had happened.
I lost one of my best friends, Devin, to suicide. Had no idea that she was chronically depressed and suicidal. Nobody knew what she was actually feeling. She put other people before herself to the point where she didn't give any of herself that happiness that she gave others. I met Devin my freshman year of high school. I was new to the school and I didn't really know anyone, and she was one of the first people to kind of welcome me into a friend group. First person to invite somebody to sit with her at lunch, and she radiated positivity and happiness and just all these good things, and was one of the best people I've ever known. I remember the day that she took her own life so vividly. We had school that day, and I was in my third period class that I had with her, and she was sitting behind me, but she seemed a little off that day. She looked like she was crying, so I turned around and I asked her if she was okay, and she said she was fine, and I asked her again, and she said she was fine again, and so I dropped it. We also had plans that night with one of my other friends to meet up and work on a school project that we had, so I figured I would see her that night and everything would be fine. But I got a text asking if I knew where Devin was. Everybody was really worried. People were looking for her. So when I got to my friend's house, we were all expecting to see her, but she never showed up. And we started to get a little bit worried, but we figured that we would just see her at school the next day. But when I got to school that day, instead of seeing Devin, my friends and I were called to the guidance office, where they started to ask us questions about Devin and what she had been doing, if she had been acting weird. And at this point, suicide still had never crossed my mind. I never thought that she would commit suicide. That had never entered my mind, even when they were asking us all these questions. And after they were done, that's when they told us, I'm sorry, but Devin had passed away. I went into shock. I didn't really know what to feel. I was more than surprised. I had absolutely no idea that she was depressed. And I don't think anybody who hasn't gone through this can understand what it feels like to lose somebody that you love to something like suicide. And the guilt that you feel for not picking up on it or doing something about it.
All of her friends were never given any kind of help from their high school. They weren't aware that Devin was suffering from depression because of her ability to hide it, which the more I've learned in the past 2.5 years is that people who suffer from depression all have the same characteristics. They're very sympathetic, they're very empathetic, they're very happy all the time, because people who suffer from depression don't want anybody else to feel that way. They know what it feels like to be in that darkness, and they just want everybody to be okay. She loved everybody, but she just couldn't love herself enough to stay with me. Olivia asked me to do this project with her, and I'm honored because of Devin. I want to be a better person. I want to live a better life. I want to help people out of the darkness. I want them to know that even though it's really bad, really, really bad, it can get better. Fabulous, amazing things come out of depression. Beautiful poetry, amazing music, fantastic photography, so many beautiful sonnets. So many beautiful people suffer from depression.
My school didn't want anything to do with it. They wanted to sweep everything under the rug and ignore it and not talk about it and just kind of treat her like another statistic instead of the human being and student that she was, who they saw every day. Instead, she was completely dehumanized and just treated like a stigma when she wasn't. There was no assembly, there was no discussion, nobody talked about it. We were just expected to ignore it, stay silent, and move on. Which of course wasn't the case with how I felt and how I felt.
Devin's friends hanging. They never offered programs to help them. The kids had to actually ask for people to come and counsel them. Devin's name is never mentioned. She is always remembered by her friends, by basically the entire school. Everybody thinks suicide is catchy. Nobody wants to talk about it, so it prevails. No help is really put out there unless it's forced on them. I'm amazed at how many people are actually affected by suicide. For my daughter, I lost 2 friends to suicide. Good, close friends. Friends you would never suspect. As usual. These people are the ones that you have to watch out for. It isn't fair. She was a 15-year-old girl, a good student, a great kid, who was so good at hiding it. So just because somebody, acts great and everything's fine and stuff like that, you never know what they're really suffering from on the inside. I don't want any more mothers to feel this way. I don't want Devin's life to be lost or vain. I want it to be known that suicide happens to everybody, every age, every sexual orientation, every sex. Everyone is susceptible. The world lost an amazing person when it lost Devin Costello. And I want to carry that on for her. I want to be that amazing person that saves people, that breaks the silence, that lets people know they're not crazy, that they really are sad, but that they're not alone, and that there's help out there. They don't have to feel isolated, different. I want everybody to know Devin's story. If I could trade places with my dog, and she could be here and well and whole, I would absolutely trade places. I am honored that this film is actually being made. It's okay to be alone, but you don't have to stay there. You can do it. You can fight it.
I hope that through hearing my experience and hearing about my friend Devin, you are a little bit more aware and that it has had a positive impact on you. So thank you.
Yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you for listening to me.
You're not alone.
Get rid of the stigma that sits on top of suicide and depression and mental illness.
Talk to somebody. You're not alone.
I didn't think that I would feel this much better. So much better. So much better.
If we do talk about it and we just start a discussion, just that little thing can initiate so much change.
I wanted to thank Allison for shedding light on this topic and for just making people aware of it's okay. It's okay to struggle with mental health.
Sun is out and I'm feeling okay. I hope you have a beautiful day.